Welcome to the set of Mercer Influencer. I'm so glad to have my guest today, Jim Barrood. Jim Barrood and I have met a number of years ago, but really not had a time to sit down. So welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
I'd like to ask you a few questions about your work because we've met through business functions, and I understand you're a leader within the tech and innovative space. But why don't you describe for the audience what it is that's sparked your interest in your career?
Sure. Well, I come from a family business, mostly in real estate, insurance, and travel when that was a thing many years ago. And so coming from a family business, I was always interested in entrepreneurship. So once I graduated from Rutgers, I went into the family business like so many people do. And then I went back to school and got my MBA in Texas. And when I came back out, I wanted to try something different. And so I was about to take a corporate marketing job at Brother International, and something popped up in the newspaper, the classifieds. I saw a job at Fairleigh Dickinson to help lead an entrepreneurship center, which at the time there were only a couple dozen in the country. This is a long time ago.
When there were classified ads for
That's
jobs.
right. And so I said, why don't I try this for 2 or 3 years and then move on, right? And it just so happened that I had a great boss. It was a great opportunity, and I stayed there for 17 years. So much of my career has been helping entrepreneurs and helping students as well. Students, entrepreneurs, business community.
Great ideas, but how do you implement them? I would imagine you got a lot of that during your time at Fairleigh Dickinson, where you had these bright minds that were coming through and good ideas, but how do you implement them in the market?
And that's the hard part. Everyone has a million ideas, right? Taking that idea from concept to reality and then to commercialize and grow a company is really hard to do. And so that's why I like to say that entrepreneurs, have the hardest job in the world, right? Because it's easy to have an idea. It's harder to launch a business. It's even harder to grow a business from one person to hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands successfully, because you have to change your skill set along the way. And that's really hard to do. And that's why there's so few of them that have done it successfully. And so when we see those unicorns, right, it's really fundamentally special.
And your role in that is to help coach people through that process of saying, how do I take this and collaborate with others, perhaps, to then bring it to market?
Sure. And that means, do you have a plan? You have an idea. How do you plan to bring that idea to market? And how do you build a team and take that team to grow a business? That's essentially it. Very hard to do. A lot of complexity, a lot of challenges, a lot of risks sometimes, but that's essentially the entrepreneurial process.
And finishing your work then at Fairleigh Dickinson, you were recruited to New Jersey Tech Council to head up that organization. That's now Tech United?
Correct.
And you had to run there as a leader at a time where, and technology still is evolving so rapidly. Tell us about the early days. It wasn't the classified ads when you joined the New Jersey Tech Council, but it was pre-COVID, so
right.
Tell us about that initial
Well, I was
time.
recruited, to lead that organization, and it was great for me because it was a larger platform. So I was on the campus. Although we did things within the North Jersey region, it was based. There was 2 campuses in Madison and Hackensack, but you can only do so much within those confines. Even though we had grown the program tremendously and we had great success, I'm really proud about that. This organization was not only statewide, but really regional. New York City to Philly. Most of the activities were in New Jersey, but it was just raise the platform of helping entrepreneurs, primarily tech entrepreneurs and business owners, to be more successful. So it was a very rewarding experience for me to help even more people and raise the profile of the state and its innovation and its entrepreneurs, from around the state, and uplift them beyond the state to show what a great community we have here.
So at Fairleigh Dickinson, a lot of students, graduates through the school, but then at Tech United, what is now Tech United, these are businesses that are already out, but they want to take it to the next level?
Mostly, but there were startups as well that were coming through, the community, and we also worked with a lot of students, right, at the universities. So we had events at universities to engage the student population and the faculty and staff so that they knew more about entrepreneurship, more about technology, and how important technology is to the state and to the community. So it was, it really helped to have the background I had in academia to help that process. And we did, in fact, let me just mention, we did launch a second venture fund, and we were also involved with an angel network to help those new startups come to life and scale.
So not only in mentorship roles and examples, but real dollars.
Real dollars and real support. So it wasn't just the money, right? We had a whole group of service providers, lawyers, accountants, bankers, which is how we met, right? Mm-hmm. That helped these companies grow.
And you took that, that model and have continued it through your career to today. So tell us a little bit more about what you're doing today as an advisor to individuals and groups in this type of space.
Sure. So again, I've had a really wonderful career of helping people. And so I've continued that after I left Tech United to do that, just one-on-one. So I'll help CEOs ranging from startups to growth companies, to corporates, to nonprofits, to university presidents. So I do advisory work. I sit on boards, and I speak at conferences as well on AI or technology or entrepreneurship or innovation. So, and all of those things are really fun to do. And there's a lot of stuff going on. But at the end of the day, helping people be more successful is something that brings real intangible benefit to me and to the community. So that's really important to me, to continue sort of nurturing and supporting the community.
And the community certainly is the Northeast corridor. It's not just the Route 1 corridor of technology. So you've expanded your horizons to offer services throughout the country?
That's right, throughout the country and around the world. It's mostly in this region, in this state, because it's nice to be local, and again, to support the community that I've helped foster for many years. And it's where the bulk of my network is. But it's always nice to help companies from across the borders. I mean, helping an AI authentication company out of Boise, Idaho. They're trying to mitigate the problems with deepfakes. So they have some new technology that stamps the video real time, verifying that it's real and from this person or that company. And that's really important in a world of deepfakes, in a world of AI.
Truly, and will continue to as a result of the development of AI and its implementation in the market and markets. New Jersey has been home for you. What is it about New Jersey that you find special?
Well, first and foremost, my family is here, and most of my extended family has stayed here as well. So we have a big family, and being around them is important to me. So that's the number one reason. But the number two reason, again, I've lived in Texas, I've lived in Europe. I could have stayed in those places, but New Jersey brings a lot of benefits as far as a location that's close to New York City. A beautiful state with shores and mountains, and that's important to me. So that proximity is important, and the cultural engagement is also important.
And it sounds like the access is too, because your work still takes you on the road. So from our area, there's a few airports we can get to, sometimes with more difficult traffic, but less expensive fares. But again, travel from this area, I think, is also important probably for you. Absolutely.
And as you know, I'm going to speak in Philadelphia tonight. In a couple of weeks, I'll be flying out to St. Kitts to speak again. So having that access is really, really important. But most, I have a lot of relationships in the state,
Right.
and that's really important to, again, on a business side, helping others, and on a personal side, having a nice network to engage with. And as I think I mentioned, I'm also on the board of McCarter Theater in Princeton, and I really love the arts and the theater, and so it's nice to sort of help a theater become more engaged with the business community at large, and also help them prosper and thrive.
That's important for the arts community, and certainly a key for the Princeton market, that we have that access to theater, as it is the State Theater in New Brunswick, and access to Philly and New York for theater. So glad you're serving there as well. Jim, we're going to take a little bit of a break for a message from Tom McManaman at Stimulus Brand, and we'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back to the set of Mercer Influencers. We'd like to thank Mercer County, the Office of Economic Development, for this show. They've been a great sponsor over the 3 seasons, and we'd like to welcome back our guest, Jim Barrood. Jim, thank you again for coming in today. I know you've got the Philly event this evening, so you're often in a position where you're speaking to not just individuals, but groups. Tell us a little bit more about what the day-to-day is like for your work now.
Right. So I speak at different venues around the world, but mostly in the States. But I should say, it's really great to just be out there and about, particularly after a pandemic, right? When we're all stuck at home, and just meeting people and having serendipity happen. And I wanted to highlight this because last week I was in Austin for South by Southwest. Mm-hmm. And I was meeting a bunch of people, but on the elevator down to my meeting, I met Guy Kawasaki, who was a very famous tech leader and author. And that wouldn't have happened if I was just, streaming in or, engaging online. And so it's important to sort of highlight how critical it is to meet people in person and to be about in person at events. And that's why I like speaking at events, is because I meet so many different people, and you never know, where there's a connection or a potential for collaboration, and that's really rewarding.
And I think we all missed that during the pandemic. So tell me about your experience through that and coming out of the sequestration that we all had, the inability to get out with people. What was that like for you?
Well, it was difficult. On the other hand, it provided an opportunity. And one thing that entrepreneurs do is they find opportunities where there are challenges. And because I had such a robust network over the years, I was able to bring people together online. So before the pandemic, I brought people together for large events and small events and dinners and such. And those were really rewarding. And so what I did, and the dinners were called salons. And so I brought that format to Zoom, essentially. And so I would do these get-togethers with people on different topics, sometimes different roles, CEO forum or a CIO forum or HR leader forum or innovation leader forum or investor forum or salon. And those were really rewarding because they got people together. And I was able to make connections with people and help people make connections with each other. And that was really important because the aspect of a strong ecosystem is the ability to collaborate and to help each other. And so whenever I could bring people together, whether it was online, because we had no choice, or offline, that's really important. And so I did about 150 of those salons. Those could be like from 8 to 12 people or 14 people. And those were great opportunities to re-engage with people, to meet new people, share new ideas, and also help people connect from that point on. And that was really delightful and a great sort of byproduct of the pandemic.
And it sounds like it was right-sized because these weren't 200, 300 people in a salon, crammed into a salon,
right.
But people who could really engage with one another visually but also then afterwards. Are you seeing some of those collaborations continue to this day? Are you able to speak on the successes for those groups and building off of that model?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I still stay in touch with all those people. There's maybe over 1,000 that were engaged. But what's nice is when I see them engaging online or on LinkedIn,
Right.
and I recognize, oh my God, that person knows that person from that salon. And that's really rewarding, right? Because they might not have met otherwise. And, you know, I don't know all the details about how they had done business together or were engaged personally together somehow, some way. But that's okay. You know, I did my job, and that was just a really lovely byproduct.
And those connections continue. So coming out of the pandemic, then you took the salon model and it's continued, but you've also reintroduced in-person events and been invited to speak again.
That's correct. So I still do dinners, still do smaller events. I've been hosting some things in Princeton at McCarter Theater, and that's in addition to bigger events. But the small ones are really rewarding because they're so intimate, and they complement the bigger ones nicely.
Where do you see your model growing in the world of the tech space with AI? Are you going to continue the same sort of model where it's a mix of the two? Where are you going with your career?
Yeah, so I'll continue doing what I'm doing because I love what I'm doing, and it's beneficial to the community. So the salons will continue. I'll do some bigger events. I'll speak at events around the region and around the world. And I do some educational collaborations as well. And that's rewarding as well because I help young people and old people. So I do one for teenagers, I do one for executives on AI. So there's so much going on, and that really keeps me going. And we'll see what happens into the future. But for now, I'm on a good trajectory of, again, helping people, nurturing the ecosystem, and helping businesses be more successful.
And also being a father. You mentioned earlier you have daughters. Tell me their career paths. Have they followed your lead, or are they what are they involved in?
I have a 13-year-old and a 16-year-old, and the 13-year-old is very entrepreneurial. Sometimes too entrepreneurial, but we won't get into that, but at school. So I'm really proud of them. One's in 8th grade and one's in 10th grade, and I try to be a good role model and try to do what's best for them and give them guidance without preaching too much. And on the other hand, it's very challenging. I mean, 2 teenage girls in this world, and what's really challenging for me is I know the dangers of tech and social media. I preach about it. I write thought leadership articles about it. I speak about it at conferences. And with all that, I'm still just their dad, who they don't want to really listen to.
Right.
And so that's a big challenge and a concern. And so I just try to do my best in educating them and a lot of praying.
Amen. So we need that because in this country there's not a lot of legislation that gives protection to young people on their devices. And I know in other countries that's different. You've noticed that. Do you find that that's a subject for discussion a lot on the road when you're involved with people? Hey, what about my kids?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's one of the biggest challenges of our day. You know, we need to disconnect more. And there is some legislation that's coming, hopefully. It's working its way, but it's still, it may never be enough. The problem is kids will circumvent the regulations, however strict they are. They're very creative, and that's really hard.
Are there advocacy groups that you would recommend, places like Common Sense Media?
Yeah. Absolutely, Common Sense Media is good. There's some people I'm working with who are doing social media networks that are for good, that are sort of protected. But the big folks are so powerful, and the algorithms are so powerful that it's really hard to defend against them.
Yes, I have a brother who is thrilled with TikTok, and I want to say to him, do you know what is being measured when you're watching one of those videos? And you don't know where it's ending up. So the power of those devices and our access is wonderful on one hand, but scary on another. And I'm fortunate that my kids are a little older, but you're in the thick of it with your daughter, so I know that that's a challenge, because you want to give good guidance and you know what's there, but the reality is they still will have their free time and their time to use the access that we've been given.
Absolutely. And the problem is everyone else is doing it, right? And so when you restrict too much, you estrange them from their friends, and that's really hard.
So I imagine, again, that's a subject that comes up on the road a lot. Not only is there a business discussion, but there's how do we deal with this within our family?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's getting, there are even more concerns with AI and deepfakes. So I speak about this in one of my talks, and I'll talk about it today, about how it could really be really dangerous for young people and bullies and predators.
Right.
And so anyway, we can't be careful enough.
You've done a couple of TED Talks. So when you say your talks, they include multiple opportunities for people to find you and find some of these discussions?
Absolutely. So I'm online, I'm on YouTube, and the TED Talks are obviously on TED. So I speak again on a number of topics: innovation, entrepreneurship, technology are some of the topics.
You're planning a conference for this May?
Yes. This May we'll have an innovation celebration. So we just published our second volume of Innovate New Jersey, which highlights really innovative companies. But we're also launching a new program called Innovate 100, which are the top 100 innovators across the state. So we're going to have a really spectacular party, celebration, gala, whatever you want to call it, in New Brunswick on May 14th.
Well, that sounds like an event that people should get excited about. Where can we find information on this conference, but also the publications that you mentioned?
Sure. So innovatenewjersey.com is probably the best place for that event, but you can always reach out to me online. Best way is probably LinkedIn. Or my website, innovationplus.us.
Awesome. Well, Jim, thanks so much for coming in today. I know you're on the road. You've got a busy day ahead, but wish you well in traveling to Philly tonight and your talk there. And so appreciate the time you've given us today. Welcome to our audience that may be tuning in for the first time. Please check us out on our social media and on our website at cnjn.org. Thank you very much. We'll see you again soon.